Lots of work goes into making a successful, let's say, short-term let. So what happens kind of behind the scenes with residential estates? How does it look from management all the way through to kind of selection, fundamentally, to try and find those right opportunities?
Yeah, it starts at the very root, I guess, because let's say what we've found out is not everything that gets promoted for allow short-term lets does allow short-term lets. So we've sort of eliminated that. So we are talking literally the majority of the time before even a lease has been written. For an apartment, a lease is written. It's literally at the planning stage. It's got to be at the stage. If we need to change a lease, it's got to be the stage before anyone's exchanged a contract on it.
So it's very early that you're getting into those conversations with the developers to say, right, we think this is a fit for our clients.
Because we have to sell it to them as well.
Yeah.
We have to sort of explain the benefits to them as well, you know, and so they're the early conversations we have. We'll get everything agreed, what we need. And then from then, it's usually the selling of that property. Everything's going along. We'll discuss with our investors throughout that term of however long that may be before it comes to fruition about the options we have. But really, you don't need to worry about it until it gets nearer the time. And then there's more we know about the market. So initially, there's a lot of work involved with the actual setting up a bit on that particular development that we're selling, whatever it may be. And then it gets to pretty much nothing. When there's
don't need to worry about it in terms of just making decisions. Obviously, there's a period of time when the development has to happen, and then as it gets closer to completion, then it's a case of
we start having conversations.
Let or short-term let.
Yeah. Start introducing you to people, and that'll be both on a standard let and the short-term. Sometimes it's the same company. I mean, ideally, like I said, we want to try and get involved still with it as much as we can because we know how we manage works, but if logistically it's not possible, it's not possible.
You manage, it's just a case of management in the areas that you have presence in, fundamentally.
Yeah, we work with My Property House. They're quite a good one, and they've got a good spread around the country as well, and they're committed to it. It is easier if, let's say, you've got a 15 apartment block. It is easier if all of them are managed by the same person.
Yeah.
Because then you're just getting into a bit of a cat fight if they're not. But it's up to that person to show what they're doing with it as well, you know, because the brand will become the same then. We'll also get into a lot of conversation about what to do with your apartment. It's something that's sort of not thought about quite a lot because it's small touches can make a massive difference. You know, and what we started doing is inviting people up to their properties. We stop for a couple of days. Obviously, we don't charge. We stop for a couple of days and then sort of ask them, what would you have done to put the finer touches on it? Because you can put a furniture pack in, but everyone buys the same furniture pack. Every picture's the same in every apartment. And even spending something like £500 extra on little things like throws or whatever it can be can make a massive difference when it comes to the advertising the apartment. Yeah. So we'll try and make sure you get the best of that. That's if you're going down that route. And even if you want to run an AST, you don't have to furnish an apartment. You just have to do it at some point if you want to go down there. Yeah. So we'll have that conversation with them, make sure they're happy with it. And then obviously the ongoing will be between them and that particular company. But what we will also be doing is making sure that we're supplying as much as we can to that company to try and make sure that we can maximise, because from a business point of view, if someone buys something and they're happy with it, then they're very likely to come back to you and buy again, which is what we're here for at the end of the day. So we are literally, because we have that knowledge of how it works, and this is what sets it aside from on other agents, so to speak. We know how it works. We literally will, from the very start to the very end, guide them through what we can. Yeah. But there is a lot of work done at the start approach, and that's part of my job now, to literally, even if it's educate developers to say, look, why not? Yeah. You know, it's as long as they've got no interest. It won't work for developments where they've got a massive interest in managing themselves. Yeah. You know, so some of the larger developers in the places like Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, etc., they've got two arms to themselves. They develop and they also manage. Yeah. They don't want you taking their tenants away. You'll never be allowed it, those sort of things. So I'm not going to name names, but a lot of the developers that most people will have heard of will not allow short-term lets because it affects their income.
So the property and the location could work. It's just the nuance of that particular developer means that it's not a fit for them.
You want a developer that develops and moves on, not has got a vested interest after it. That's what you want, you know, and they're the ones. So a couple of our developers now literally ask us where we want to go, you know, where they're looking for, and they will be on there. However they get their notifications, we'll be doing it, because they have no interest in the management side of it. They've got no interest in looking after the rents or that sort of thing. They just want to develop and then redevelop, you know, so they're the ones we want.
And then a conversation behind the scenes with you guys from the experience, let's say, in terms of the management and what works over the longer term within particular areas, through to the developers, so that you can consider all of those individual elements, from planning, as you said, all the way through to fulfilling the development and then beyond, to make sure it's the right fit for not just the investors but also the occupiers. Fundamentally, a good fit.
Which is what we've done and got a good track record of now. You know, so it's one of those. We also know a lot of people don't want to buy something before it's completed, which is fine. But what you don't get generally is completed properties where they allow the short-term lets, if that makes sense. It very rarely come up. You get the odd resale, got a couple now, but they're quite rare. You know, I mean, and that's, we all know that's invested. It's you can't buy in hindsight, can you? At the end of the day, you can't buy. There's no perfect development. So we are just absolutely, I don't know, accustomed to dealing with every side of it. You know, making sure that no stone is left unturned. You know, and it doesn't matter whether our clients based down the road or whether they're based in Hong Kong or Australia. It doesn't matter. It's the same process for everybody. We've got lots of supporting evidence now and explaining detail, you know, because again, with short-term lets, it's not as complicated as what it seems, that aspect of it. So we'll send that, and if you understand it and get it, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone that watches this will have stopped in something that is a short-term let apartment, you know, or property. Will have been someone's home. Someone will be benefiting from that. I remember going around to see an investor, and but he actually came from stopping in our apartments, and it was relatively simple, because I sort of just said, right, how much do you think this would rent for? And I think it was about £700, something like that. And I said, how much do you think your company's paying per night for it? And it was about £85. I was like, oh wow. And it's one of those, and I don't think he associated the fact that was an investment he was stopping in, but it is, if that makes sense. But yeah, so we'd like to make sure that all our investors know that they are fully covered from every step of the way.